Hello, everyone. My wife, who is much smarter than me, recently pointed out that pretty much all the videos I do are for people who are already huge spirits nerds. And that maybe I should consider doing something for people who are just kind of getting started. And my first thought was like, well, why? I mean, there's already plenty of content out there for that, right? And then I thought about it and I realized, yeah, maybe not. There's a lot of, how do I put this, somewhat immature, infantile spirits content out there on the YouTubes. That doesn't mean it's good beginner content. That doesn't mean it's good for people who are just trying to get started on this to kind of figure out what the heck is going on. So I decided I would step out of my lane a little bit, and we would just talk about like the absolute basics, the absolute, first rules of thumb for buying good spirits. So this is for those of y'all who maybe you started off in cocktails. You started off making yourself some nice margaritas or some Manhattans, and you realize one day you just ran out of vermouth one day and you decided to pour a neat glass of something you tried and you thought, this is pretty darn good on its own. Maybe I should look more into this. Or maybe you just turned 21, your family gave you a really nice glass of something and you were really into it, and somehow you've stumbled across this video and you're like, all right, where the heck do I go from here? So we're going to talk about the absolute basics of walking into a liquor store and not buying something that sucks, buying something that is actually good instead. So that's the program here. So importantly, we are not trying to rule stuff in here. That's not we are trying to rule stuff out. So in the process of my giving some rules of thumb, if some good things kind of get left by the wayside, I'm okay with that at this level. Maybe later on, folks can come back and recover all those really delicious 40% spirits out there. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I just want people watching this to be able to go into a store, look at some labels, and walk out with something good. So before we get to the buying good spirits part, the walking into the store part, we're going to take some preliminary steps. Some first things you should be trying to do really before anything else. Because I'm assuming you have a bottle of something on hand already. Stick with that for now. First thing to do, learn to smell this stuff. Like you've paid your money for a spirit, and I'm going to tell you, half the experience is smelling it. Not just kind of trying to get it down as quickly as possible. Take your glass of spirit. I'm going to pour some of the funk here. Not too much. You don't want large portions, because you're going to take your time with this stuff. Swirl if you need to. You can don't splash it around the room, like some White and McCabe people, but give it a good swirl and stick your nose in. Don't stick your nose all the way in the glass. Don't do that. Just right up to the rim. Give it a good sniff. And just enjoy the aromas of what you poured. Later on, as you get more experience, you might want to try to pick out individual tasting notes. Start by trying to find 3. If you can't do it, look at other people's tasting notes and steal from them. You can just kind of go through, just pull up a web page of someone's notes and go through, smell and go, oh yeah, nuts, no, I don't get nuts. Lemon, oh yeah, there's lemon. And just kind of go through like that and you will get practice. You will be able to start doing this. So that's the first thing. Just slow the hell down. Learn to appreciate the smell of these things, because that is so much of the experience. As long as we're talking about it, number 2, get a decent glass. Rocks glasses are not great for smelling spirits. They just aren't. They're nice because it's hard to break them, but that's about all they're good for. Wine glasses, are a step up because they're going to have like the little bowl shape. You want something with a bowl because it's going to concentrate the aromas a little bit. Wine glasses can run you into problems when you get stuff at higher proof, like this guy, because they will also concentrate the alcohol attack at the very top of the bowl. It's just too big a bowl, and the opening, the end of the bowl is kind of right at the top. So you're going to get a lot of nose burn if you're trying to smell this benchmark here from a wine glass. Ideally, you want something that is a small bowl, small volume. Like you're only going to be drinking maybe an ounce, 2 ounces at most out of these things at one time. So you want a small glass with a little bit of a bowl and ideally a little bit of a wall before you hit the top to kind of help eliminate some of the alcohol burn. Like this is a Glencairn. There's lots of options out there. There's lots of spirits glasses, whiskey glass, whatever. They're all fine. I like Glencairns because, like rocks glasses, these things are pretty durable. It's hard to break one of these things. And they're cheap. You can get them at your local liquor store for under $10 a pop. Sometimes under $5 a pop. And sometimes you can just get them in gift boxes. Like I got this one out of a Balcones gift box. So Glencairns are great. Third thing, learn to sip. Learn to sip. So if you are... Thankfully, I think shots have fallen out of favor a little bit. So hopefully people are not just trying to shoot this stuff back anymore. Don't do that. Life is too short. But there's still, like, if you're coming from cocktails or something, you're probably in the habit of trying to get this stuff down as quickly as possible before the ice starts to melt, before it starts to warm up, whatever it is. Don't do that. Slow down. Learn to sip. So after you had your nice smell, smells nice, take a little tiny sip in your mouth. Like, I don't know, a very, very small, the smallest sip you can possibly take, and just hold it on your tongue for a couple of seconds. Give it a 2 count at minimum. And then swallow. You try to just get this stuff down your throat as quickly as possible. You will end up with a coughing fit because the kinds of spirits we're dealing with here have a lot of character. So yeah, just small sips, holding on your tongue. If you're just starting out, the alcohol nip is going to be a problem for you. So, an important thing, I should probably add another number to this. No, I'll keep it part of this. Have a glass of water with you. Don't just be drinking spirits. Have some water on the side. Sipping water will help you enjoy your spirit. And if it's just too nippy for you, add a little bit of water. You can get yourself an eyedropper, put a little in. A better choice, a much more stylish choice, is a colorful straw, like this one. And you can just drip water in as you desire. Less is more. You can always add more water if you haven't taken enough nip away. But you can't take water out after you've added it. You can't just top it up with more spirit. It doesn't really work that well for some reason. So, what you're going to want to do with your water, if the nip is a problem, and again, small sips, is just add water and sip until like the nip just isn't bothering you as much. Add until you can comfortably sip the stuff, and you will find over the course of not even months, weeks, that your palate will become accommodated to the alcohol, and you will need less and less water. And maybe you will want less and less water. Not always the case, but just something you put out there. So, learn to sip. Slow down. Sip. Enjoy the stuff. Lastly, get some friends involved. It's fun to, be in your man cave with your glass, your water, and your colorful straw and your spirits, but often it's get involved in an online community if nothing else, or bring some friends over, break out your bottle of Jamaican rum, or whatever it is you may be pouring. Let other people try it. Have a conversation. Let it be an occasion to get together and celebrate and commiserate. So this is something to get you started. Get used to smelling, to tasting and sipping, and not just trying to get through a glass as quickly as possible. Buy a decent glass. Glencairns are great. And, have some friends. Having friends is a good thing anyways. Now, assuming you've put in a little bit of time on that, it's time to go out and buy a bottle of spirit for yourself. And so I'm going to give you a couple rules of thumb about doing this. And the first rule of thumb is, I'm not going to say it's the only one that matters, but it's the big one. This is the one that is going to cut your choices down from thousands of bottles to maybe a couple of hundred, maybe even a few dozen, depending on your shop. Be picky about ABV. Be picky about alcohol by volume. So every single bottle you'll see in a store has to, by law, report the alcohol inside the bottle. Like for example, this benchmark, full proof, is quite strong. This is 62.5 alcohol by volume. Now, at least in the United States, and to some extent I'm mostly talking to folks in the United States. In the United States, the legal minimum for almost all dry spirits is 40% alcohol by volume. And the vast majority of spirits you will find on the shelves are bottled at 40% alcohol by volume. And you don't want to buy them. You want to ask for, if I need a cutoff, I'm going to say 42%. If it's not at least 42%, put it back on the shelf and walk away. If it comes in a really nice decanter, a really cool box, and it's a name that all of your friends have been singing the praises of, and you pick up the bottle and you check and it says 40%, put it back on the shelf, walk away. If it looks very nerdy and specific, and it's got statements of bricks levels and where the raw materials were harvested and who distilled it, and it looks very artisanal. You pick it up and it says 40% alcohol by volume, put it back on the shelf, walk away. This does there are a couple of exceptions, but all right. So here's the deal: when you distill to get a distilled spirit, the vast majority of what you're dealing with is coming off the still somewhere between like 50% alcohol by volume and say around 90% alcohol by volume. There's some things that go above that and some things that go below that. When things go into a barrel for wood aging, they tend to go in, again, in the 50s to 60% alcohol by volume. So the way that they get down to 40% is dilution. They get basically watered down. And there's I'll get into that. There are exceptions to this, right? Some things get there honestly. Pisco and Viche, for example, from Peru and Colombia, are just distilled to around 40% alcohol by volume. That's just how they come off the still. So they got there, and they're delicious as they are, because they got there honestly. Some very, very old spirits, brandies, whiskeys, if they are aged in certain kinds of conditions, very, very wet cellars, the alcohol in the solution will evaporate quicker than the water in the solution will, and so you'll eventually get something that is far reduced in alcohol. So it even if you just pull it out of the barrel, it's going to be around 40%. That does happen, but those can be delicious because they got there honestly. If something got there by dilution, it can be more of a problem because when 40%, by my experience, again, that's a rule of thumb, it tends to be where most spirits start to fall apart, where they've just been stretched too thin. The other thing is there's an old adage that more alcohol equals more flavor. And that is true. Now, not all those flavors are good. There can be bad flavors in there if a spirit's just not been well made. But it's those cases, most of the time, where your producer is going to want to water the thing down to make you able to taste less of it. And those are the cases where things end up at 40% alcohol. Or they're just the stuff was made perfectly fine, and the producer is just trying to stretch the batch a little bit. In any case, you're getting less good flavor when you buy stuff at 40% alcohol by volume. There are things out there that have been diluted that far that are still good. Don't bother with them right now. Not at this point. You can find out about those later. And the other, you might tell me also, well, I'm just a beginner. Why would I want something at 50% alcohol by volume? Like, that's just too darn strong for me to enjoy right now. And that may be true. But let me tell you something. The difference between something that has been brought down to 40% at a bottling plant and something that's been brought down to 40% by you with your pipette or your crazy straw is very, very different. Because this, I've just added water, is letting things out of solution right now. And I can smell it. Holy moly, that smells lovely. The bottling plants smell fantastic because you're losing all the delicious aromas are coming out of solution there instead of in your household. So, as a general rule, even if you're just a beginner, better to buy something that's a little bit stronger, 42% at minimum, and add water to get to where you're comfortable sipping it, than to try to get something that's smooth right as you pour it, but just doesn't offer a ton of flavor once you can kind of enjoy it as is. So that's the big one. Like, that's the one that's going to cut out like the vast majority of the crappy spirits on the shelf on its own. So yeah, let us move on. Second thing, when in doubt, I'm not going to tell you don't buy it, but at least check out the reviews and the online communities, what they're saying about whatever it is you're looking at. Often they are enormously helpful. I am a member. I'm one of the contributing parties to this community of reviews and stuff. And you can look at my reviews, but other people's too. And if people are divided on something, you don't have to buy it. You're going to have other options. So when in doubt, check reviews. Third thing, don't spend too much money. At least not at first. Like, there are things out there that are $200 that are absolutely worth that amount of money because of the quality of what is in the bottle. But if you're just starting out, you may not enjoy them, and you may not... How do I not sound patronizing? I'm going to sound a little patronizing saying this, but bear with me. You're probably not going to appreciate them that much. Like, they're just going to be so far out of your comfort zone and out of your experience. Like, it's you may be a little bit uncomfortable tasting the things. So I would say get something that's just... Spend less money, get something really, really good instead of like spending a ton of money chasing something great. I would say your budget should normally be between about $20 to $60 per bottle. There are really good things below $20. It's hard to find them. There aren't that many. It's really hard on an economic scale to make a really good spirit for $20. It just is, or definitely below, like in the teens. And $60. There's again plenty of good stuff above $60, but you don't really need to spend that much yet for just getting a good bottle off the shelf. So say about $20 to $60. Fourth thing, like if you are not wedded to any particular category yet, and you might be, and that's okay, consider what I would consider at the moment to be the QPR kings. QPR being the quality price ratio. Basically, how much goodness are you getting for your dollar? And right now, I think the QPR kings are unaged rum, not white rum, that's different, Well, it isn't, but it is. It's complicated. Unaged rum and American straight whiskey. There's other things that are really, really good QPRs. Baijiu, China's native spirit, is fantastic for the money. Some of it is fantastic for the money. But if you're watching this video, you may not need to go there yet, and it can be hard to find, and it's just not to a lot of people's palate. And there's also infused spirits like gin. I love gin. I think it's fantastic to sip on its own sometimes if you get a good one. But yeah, that's another conversation. So the ones I would pick if you're just looking for maximum goodness for your dollar: unaged rum and American straight whiskey, probably bourbon or rye. This is the Funk. I'm going to review it probably in my next video that I record. It is from Jamaica. It is from the Worthy Park Distillery. It is bottled at 50%. It has tons of flavor, and it is just over $20. This is Benchmark Full Proof from Buffalo Trace, the same distillery that makes all the Blantons and the big, famous bourbons and stuff. This is enormously powerful. It's pretty good bourbon, and it is just over $20. So these are some good options to look at. There's tons and tons and tons of in those categories that are worth your time. Others. So fifth thing, categories to be aware of. These are all categories I love, or there are things in them that I love, but they're also minefields. First one, the big one, tequila. Tequila has really skyrocketed in popularity recently, and whenever that happens, the result is shenanigans. So a lot of the tequilas you see, happily, a lot of them will already be ruled out by the being picky about our ABV rule, because a lot of them are bottled at 40%. But a lot of tequila beyond that is just additive city. Like, you've got a fairly anemic spirit, or a spirit that hasn't been made very well, and they will just dump additives in there to kind of make it taste yummy, and to me that just tastes faker than a $3 bill. So if your tequila tastes like birthday cake icing, that is probably not good tequila. So in any case, tequila is absolutely one of those categories where a lot of stuff ruled out by the 40% rule. But if you're still considering something, check the reviews first. Mezcal. Sometimes you can run into the same kind of thing. A lot of bad mezcal also ruled out by the 40% rule. Maybe that's kind of like a lot of these problems tend to run together. You tend to find a lot of additive-ridden stuff bottled at just too low a strength, and other problems with it as well. But yeah, lots of crappy mezcal out there that has been a little bit tampered with. So do check your reviews on those. Second big category to be aware of, big brand cognac. Cognac is an absolutely gorgeous spirit, or it can be, and a lot of the big houses, your Hennessy's, your Remy Martins, they just aren't putting out very good stuff, and a lot of it is also bottled, watered down to 40%, so you're ruling that out. But a lot of it has just had, again, sugar added, or coloring, basically like stewed wood added, and that's not great. Another category to be aware of a little bit, rum. I know I just said that unaged rum at proper ABV is one of the value kings, but elsewhere rum can be a little bit of a minefield. So there are a lot of rums that get even into worse shenanigans than tequila has figured out. So this is another one where, when in doubt, unaged rums, there's less shenanigans happening, but aged rums, quote unquote dark rums, check before you buy. Another one, finished spirits. Some finished spirits. So let me back up and explain. Finishing is when you take a spirit after it's been distilled and aged in a cask already, and then put it in a different cask for a short period of time. Generally less than a year, sometimes less than a year and a half, anyways. And generally, the finishing cask has something special and marketable about it. Finished spirits can be a minefield as well. But finishing, by the way, is something more specific than just aging in cask in general. It means a specifically short aging in something gimmicky. This can be a minefield too, and it can be a way to mask, again, the addition of sugar and other flavorings and stuff. And often, again, some of them can be really good, but a lot of the time it's just a way to justify jacking up the price of a bottle. So, again, be wary, check before you buy if you're interested. Let's see. One we probably won't run into, but grappa, pomace brandy, can have a sugar issue as well. They can have a sweet tooth over there. You're probably not going to be interested if you're watching this video, but be wary of that too. And also vodka. I think at this point, like, we've all kind of we're aware of the issues with vodka. Basically, like, there's just a ton of cheap, crappy, neutral grain alcohol that's kind of gussied up and put into a fancy bottle and sold for $30 bucks that as vodka. But vodka is just another one where it's there's that problem if you're just not getting that much for your money. There are good vodkas out there. Do not trust Fred Minnick on this. There are some really good vodkas out there, but in general, it is a category to be cautious of. If you need a vodka, maybe grab something Polish. Poland you could generally trust, and they're not that expensive. We shall talk about vodka more in the future. All right, so those are the categories to be aware of. Sixth rule of thumb: try stuff first if possible. If you can go to a decent spirits bar in your area first with like a wad of money, bring like 60, 80 bucks, and just try a whole bunch of things. Maybe talk to your bartender if they seem like they know what they're doing, or just like ask people on the internet. Just try a bunch of things. You will learn a lot from that use of money than just by buying a bunch of bottles that you turn out not to like all that much. Actually, that's a general. Just try lots of things at this point in your career. So yeah, like, make a trip to your local bar, try stuff. And seventh and lastly, this isn't really one rule of thumb, it's just some category specific things. When you're dealing with, I don't know if there's a broad way of putting this, with Scotch or Irish or Japanese whiskey or things broadly in that style, so not American. American whiskey is a different thing. So is Canadian. Be cautious about Canada. Scotch, Irish, Japanese whiskey, buy the malt whiskey. Buy the stuff that says malt whiskey on it. Or pot still, if you're in Ireland. Pot still whiskey is also fine. I don't want to get too technical, but basically you're dealing with, in these areas, two different kinds of base spirit. One kind is the good stuff made from barley that's pot distilled. Don't worry about what that means yet. That is the stuff that is pretty darn good. And then you have the other kind of base, which is called grain whiskey, which is essentially just like barrel-aged vodka. That's more or less how you can think about it. Some people like it. I've never been a fan. And then you have what tends to be called blended whiskey. This is tricky because you can have blended grain whiskey and you have blended malt whiskey, and those are not the same thing. Blended whiskey is a specific term that means a blend, usually of a small amount of malt whiskey, again, the good stuff, or pot still whiskey, and the grain whiskey. And a lot of the big brands are like this. Johnny Walker's like this. And I just don't feel like they are worth the money compared to just coughing up for a basic malt whiskey or pot still whiskey. Just buy those. Just find a cheap malt whiskey or pot still whiskey, and you'll have spent your money more wisely, even if you have to break the 40% rule. This is a case where you might want to break the 40% rule. If your choice is like a slightly better bottled blended whiskey or a slightly crappier bottled malt whiskey. Another rule of thumb for quote-unquote dark rums, which should be, check for an age statement, because the implication with all that darkness, the color of the rum, is that it has been aged, but it's not always true. A lot of the time they're just dumping colorant in, and that's, some of the nerds are going to complain that you should be looking for unchill filtering and natural color stated on the labels. Yes, that's true, but the ABV thing I feel like is more important. In the case of dark rums in particular, though, look for the age statement. Look for some statement that this thing has actually spent some time in a barrel, rather than just having lots of flavorings and colorant dumped into it. That's generally a big giveaway that you should be avoiding it. Also, for mezcal in particular, let's make this the last thing because this is already like half an hour. Jesus. For mezcal, look for smaller lots. There are a lot of mezcals distilled at an industrial scale these days, and I don't think they're very good. I don't think they're worth their money. If you're going to buy a mezcal, look at the back for a lot number and maybe ideally like a lot size. You're looking for something under 5,000 bottles, say. That's generally a good sign that you're getting something in a reasonably small batch where you can expect it to be of decent quality rather than just having been cranked out of a mezcal factory somewhere. And that's about all I got. I mean, the important thing here, aside from just getting the practice of learning how to taste and smell this stuff, which is how you enjoy it, is the ABV thing. Like just checking the ABV, just finding that little number buried on the label somewhere. If you can find that, and that will do so much work for you, like cutting out the crap. Like that will get almost everything. If you can find that number and it's north of 42, you're probably doing okay. All right, that is it. I'm going to stop talking here because this is way too long for an introductory video as it is. Thanks for watching. Send this around if you can think of someone who will find this useful. Cheers.